I do believe, though, there is something to it. Without actually going in and doing the investigation in that manner, I've heard enough stories. I believe there is something to it with object manipulation. Now, what kind of entity or whatever is involved in it, it always has this connotation of being very dark. I think it's rare, very rare that you run into demonic activity. But if there's that chance, and if the Ouija board is some conduit, I think that's why most people stray away from it.
What's the best story you heard that made you say, you know what, I've never played this, but this maybe warrants me to look at it? Is there any one particular story or just a bunch?
I can't think of any particular story with the Ouija board that people have told me, other than I remember growing up, people would say they had one as soon as they started using it, and whatever question they asked, start moving around. There's actually a physical change in the room. The room gets dark. They get this really dark and depressed, terrified feeling. And the Ouija board is associated, a lot with the seances. And when the ghost hunting groups came along, they didn't want anything to do with this seance activity, with, holding hands and chants and things like that. And that's why I believe most ghost hunting groups have not touched it. They won't go there. And whether it's just from hearing the stories or what it's based on, I think that's kind of my personal belief and why I don't like to deal with it. If we were to do a show on it, if we were to do a show on the Ouija board and it came to doing the night investigation, you could count me out.
Because of your maybe fear of the negative entities and things like that?
Yeah.
So your personal belief system is one where you do believe in the paranormal, even though are you a skeptic or are you a true believer? How would you call yourself?
I have a very open mind with the paranormal, but I definitely do not believe everything I hear. I don't believe everything people tell me. If you believe everything, in essence, you really believe nothing, because it can't all be true. There can't be so much contradictory evidence. So when it comes to the Ouija board, I think it is kind of that emotional thing that I base it on, of what I was told when I was a child. I have no personal experience, but I do believe that when people are doing EVP sessions or whatever, and you actually invite a spirit to interact with you, in this case a Ouija board, you're asking it to touch you and to move your hands. One of the theories is that you are thereby inviting it to allow you to become a conduit. And if you're religious or you have any experience with that type of thing, I think that's why people stray away from it. That's not somewhere you want to go. And even though it might be rare, I've heard some cases that are very serious and fairly credible.
So what do you think of the fact that Hasbro sells it to 8-year-old kids? It's marketed as a toy for 8-year-olds. Do you think that's irresponsible? No big deal? What's your opinion on that issue? Should it be marketed as a psychic tool or as a toy?
Well, people could make the argument that it's just a toy. In fact, on the board itself, I said it's just a game. See, people make the argument that Ouija boards are just toys. And I believe on the box itself it says it's just a game, or is it, or something.
Or isn't it? Yeah, with it.
Or isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't go out so far to say it's irresponsible, because I think that the incidences are rare where things occur. But at the same time, for my kids, when I have kids, that's not something they'll be playing with. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a 6 and a 9-year-old, and I don't want them near the thing ever. I'm scared. I had an experience that led me to make this film, and it was so freaking scary. Like, I would never. It's not that I'm completely scared of them. I just believe that they absolutely are trouble, but I do think that they are actually an overlooked tool. That's all.
Right.
I know the sun's really in your eyes, so I'll finish up here. So, last question as a summary. If you were charged, forget that the show Fact or Fake, if you just alone were charged with the investigation, quote unquote, of this thing called the Ouija board,
right,
how would you go about to determine if it was ideomotor or if it was paranormal? it almost like I'm asking you for advice, meaning, you know, here I am trying to make the documentary about Ouija. I know I'm not going to get the answer because there is no one answer.
Right.
But what do you think would be the methodology to determine if such an elusive thing, something that split? I mean, when I hear people say it's ideomotor, it makes sense to me that we're subconsciously moving it. When I hear this, when I had my own experience, I know it's paranormal, but I just can't seem to reconcile it. How would you do it as a former investigator for the FBI, for example? Does that give you any insight?
Yeah. You know, devising an experiment to try and determine if there really is something to the Ouija board would be kind of difficult. I haven't really given it much thought, but I would try to set up a control study to isolate whether the people touching it are actually subconsciously controlling it. You know, dowsing is very popular, and that also works with dowsing rods. The person has to be the conduit. They're the one holding the rods. I would try and set up something where there is no manipulation by the person. Maybe use a pendulum or something, and then ask that pendulum to move and to spell out words or something of that sort. If it does it, then I don't know. Maybe we're looking at something like, you know, spontaneous, some type of telekinesis. There's so many possibilities, and there are a few very credible research groups, you know, that will delve into this subject a little bit. And Princeton has done some studies into the paranormal. I'd like to see something like that done.
Yeah, you know, like Princeton did that new sphere, like the Princeton Egg. I don't know if you know about that, the Mass Consciousness Index, where they kind of measure random number generators. And right before 9/11, there was a huge change, as if there's a collective unconscious. Do you think the Ouija board may bring out in us latent psychic abilities that's really maybe what it is that it is us, but it's drawing on either a collective or even our own individual, or perhaps the two people doing it, drawing on that invisible ether that connects us all. Is that possible? I mean, I guess the question is, if you had to answer, Ouija board, what is it? How does it work? As you sit here now, what is your point of view? And, you know, you're calling it, and then we'll be done. So go from there.
It's very difficult for me to speculate on the origins of this mysterious power that people are alleging with the Ouija board. I would say, though, that there are other examples of object manipulation where things are moving that are connected psychologically to the manipulation by the person subconsciously. For example, if you take a string and you put a wash or a penny or something on it, and you look down on it and you think forward, backward, forward, backward, forward, backward, no matter how still you hold your fingers, psychologically there have been studies that micro movements of the fingers with that assertion of that thought will move the object. Now, is that what's happening with Ouija boards? Very possible. However, that's where I bring in the anecdotal evidence, where I've heard Ouija boards are accompanied with very dark, very scary occurrences. That's what we'd have to sort out.
Exactly. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's the negative, and we don't know if it's a bad PR issue or if it's because of really bad experiences, but you're right. That is the problem. But the final question is, you would not, though, if you walked into a party or whatever, if the Ouija board was there, you will never use it in your life, or you're open to someday using it. Where do you come down on that? Because I know you haven't, but you probably had chances to and just said no. Yeah. So what's your final thing on that? And if no, why will you never use one? And then we're done.
Okay. I will never use a Ouija board. I would never encourage someone to use a Ouija board. I have looked into cases of Ouija boards, and I would do experimentation on someone claiming that it works. But as far as actually utilizing it, no. I stay away from that. I do have personal convictions of things that I really can't describe well enough to base my reasoning, but I would stay away from them.
you just have a sense that it's not good, or at least you have not specifically religious, but it's something inside you that your intuition says don't mess with it.
Right.
Okay, so just finish off by saying your name again and how you want to be listed, and then we're done. So that's it.
Okay.
So just say, and you can look right here and just do it again.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'm Ben Hansen, and I host a show on Sci-Fi called Fact or Fake Paranormal Files.
Okay, and let me just get one more time from this angle, and then we're done. Okay.
I'm Ben Hansen, and I host a show on Sci-Fi Channel called Fact or Fake Paranormal Files.
Perfect. All right. Awesome. You were such a